My advice for documentary filmmakers in the midst of a difficult time, FYI, it's always been a difficult time. I've never not had a difficult time raising money. My real advice is to be creative. Having done this for 30 years, every time you go out of the gate, it's really hard. And it's all about brainstorming what your particular film needs to raise money and what are its strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes it's through testing the water. What doesn't work? Okay, ABC didn't work. I'm not going to collapse. I mean, I may collapse for a day. I'm going to get back up and I'm going to brainstorm again. What would work for my film? Every film has a particular key that will unlock the funding code. And you've got to actually just be creative. Kickstarter is just one new key, but it won't work for every film. Another film might do better with foundations, or it might do better with international television, or it might do better with a donor, or it may do all of the above. So you just have to be creative. Without creative fundraising, no films get funded. In my particular case, my Reincarnation was technically finished. We hadn't paid all the bills. In fundraising, and especially for film, they always say, well, you can't fundraise backwards. So we were really afraid of how do we craft this pitch to get people to understand that even though the film is finished, we still need their money. And so we simply explained it very carefully. We had a producer who promised us $100,000 to complete. We spent the money and they weren't able to raise it. And people really responded and in fact didn't seem bothered by it. So it became a non-problem. In fact, on the opposite, the fact that the film was finished, it was going to festivals. We could post video for those festivals. We could actually on stage, I could tell people at the festivals, we're doing a Kickstarter campaign, please help. Actually ended up being a plus for the campaign, not a minus. General subjects don't do well on Kickstarter. Subjects like women, I don't think my last film would have done well on Kickstarter, or just large subjects. Targeted audience do really well, like race car driving, horseback riding, Buddhism. The other thing that does well is if you have a famous person attached, an actor, famous book, of course, all the things that you can actually say target the people who love that person. In this case, it was a Buddhist teacher, but we had a very tight core audience. That's why also our Kickstarter campaign, while it did very well, it was also the #1 raising per person campaign in all of history. I think the average person donated $250, which is very high. We actually didn't have a huge number. I think we had 500 and some people donate, but at a very high price. Usually you have a larger number at a lower price, and it's because this had a very dedicated core audience. How to elaborate a good pitch for a Kickstarter campaign? I think the first thing is to write in a real way. What people are really dead on today is just asking for money. So finding a personal niche or something you can say about the subject that's really exciting. And then writing in a new and fresh way is always it. I mean, what people are really dead on is we need money for our film. So in my case, I kept trying to relate my travels around the world, the way people were reacting to the film, my personal struggle with Kickstarter I actually wrote about in my Kickstarter pitch, and also the importance of the film and why. So again, it's always trying to write in a fresh way, in a real way, which of course takes more time, but is really worthwhile because people do respond to it. One of our crazy, weirdest, best incentives was we pre-sold the DVD, like a limited edition DVD, for $109, which is like ridiculous for a DVD. So the DVD costs $1.25 to make or something. But because the audience, the target audience, really was so hungry for their own DVD, which we watermarked, by the way, we sold in a ridiculous number of $109 DVDs. So that was really successful. We found that all of our targeted items that were spiritual and Buddhist did very well. Anything related to film did less well. So, you know, a conversation with famous filmmaker Jennifer Fox didn't work at all. Nobody wanted it. But a tanka, which is a Buddhist painting, that sold really well. everything in the lower end, the higher end items took a long time to sell, but anything under 500 in our case did quite well. The whole concept of the pitch, the topic sentence, the subject, is giving people something that will actually encourage them to open, to read. So every moment has to give back something. This is an exchange. It isn't just a request for funding.